All right, guys and girls. So yesterday we obviously had our very sad lesson on September 11th. Hopefully you saw the events and why it happened. If you haven't, for whatever reason, you really need to go back and watch the videos and go through the assignments, please. But now let's look at what happens after 9/11. Uh, George Bush's response to 9/11 is rather, I would say, pretty good, but there is some controversy with it. He was looked at as a very good leader, and he created a couple things that were pretty good, though the second one's very controversial. So after 9/11, George Bush tightened up security in America in two big ways. And really the way to understand this is America as a whole tightened up. So our airport security really tightened up. I mean, as far as I know, I don't think there's been a hijacking of a plane in 19 years. So we've tightened things up in a very good way. Airport-wise, our country's just a lot safer from outside attacks than it would have been prior to this. And that is thanks in large part to something called the Department of Homeland Security. This is a department now in our government that was created right after 9/11, and basically it's similar to what like the Secretary of State does and what the FBI does, but they're specifically looking for attacks that could be coming to the United States. So they're looking at outside threats. They're looking at possible terrorists coming in and attacking the country. They're not necessarily worried about foreign issues. Like if there's a war breaking out between two countries that has nothing to do with the United States, they're not worried about that. That's different groups in our government. That's what our Secretary of State and our Department of Defense is for. But the Department of Homeland Security is specifically for groups that are coming to attack the United States. So that was created, and they have been good, as to say there really have not been any major outside attacks in the last 19 years. So I would say they're definitely doing their job in the government, which is good. And then George Bush also put in what's called the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act gets controversial. Your assignment will be on the Patriot Act, so we'll try and go through it. So it gave American government power to surveil or surveillance any suspected terrorists at home or abroad. So basically, if you were suspected of possibly carrying out a terrorist attack or you were linked to a terrorist, what they could do is they could surveil, look at, take photos, go into your computer, online data, and kind of investigate you without your knowledge. So, you could be on a phone call, and we always joke that the government's listening, but the Patriot Act can actually tap into your phones and listen to your phone conversations and texts. So it is a legitimate thing. And, it's very controversial because, pretty much if you're someone who's very big on your First Amendment rights, this infringes on your First Amendment rights. But then other people say, well, I have nothing to hide from the government, so I don't really mind if they're listening. So it's a very controversial thing, and something that was a lot more popular right when it was passed right after September 11th, because the whole thought was, now we'll get a head start if someone's trying to attack the United States again. If we had some better surveillance, we'd be able to stop another attack from happening. And that was the whole idea behind it. But some people are good with it, and some people definitely are not good with it. So it's a controversial thing. I'm not sure how you guys feel too. If the government was listening in your phone conversation, or they wouldn't have a reason to, right? But if for some reason you were mistaken to want to carry out an attack against the country or assassinate the president, they could use the Patriot Act to look at what's going on and surveil you. So it's definitely controversial. We'll look at some regions questions quick. The passage of the USA Patriot Act of 2001 and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security reflect the determination of the United States government to what? All right, correct answer is going to be 4. Prevent future terrorist attacks. All right, the Supreme Court decision in Schenck versus the United States was just something we learned in the Roaring Twenties unit. Hopefully you could go back and look at that. And the USA Patriot Act of 2001 both dealt with the power of the federal government to what? All right, the correct answer is going to be 4. Okay, not suspend the writ of habeas corpus. I could see why you'd look at that and say, okay, we're not throwing someone in jail. We're just limiting civil liberties for reasons of national security. Schenck versus the United States, people can't be screaming, fire in a crowded place or say or speak out against the government if it's in a threatening way, sort of thing. Same thing with the U.S. Patriot Act. Okay, it's just to make sure our country is safe. But losing rights on that, I'm not sure if that's the best way. That's where it's controversial. All right, we'll have your assignment on that shortly. Let's go to this. There's now going to be our actual response to the attack. Okay, so let's talk about the group. Now, if you remember from yesterday, the name of the group, this is where I asked the class who remembers the name of the group that was responsible and carried out the attack, and hopefully you remember the name of the group was Al-Qaeda, and that would be led by Osama bin Laden. Now, here's the really confusing thing about Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is not a country. All right, it's a terrorist organization. It would be, the best, I try and use this example. It'd be like the Ku Klux Klan carrying out an attack on a separate country. And now the separate country wants to go and attack us. And we're like, well, they're not really located. They're not everywhere in our country. They're only in certain spots. So Al-Qaeda is located in a lot of places in the Middle East, but they're so small in some areas. Okay, so Al-Qaeda, where they were the biggest was in the country of Afghanistan right here. And what they did was Afghanistan's government was led by a terrorist organization that was put in place called the Taliban by Al-Qaeda. So the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are very similar. You don't really need to know the differences, for this class. But the Taliban ran this country of Afghanistan. Now, Al-Qaeda could be found in, places like Iran. They could be found in Iraq, Pakistan. All right, they could be found in these countries. But where they were the strongest was Afghanistan. So can you drop a nuclear bomb and take out all of Afghanistan? Sure, but you're going to kill 99% of innocent people that don't really want to be a part of Taliban rule. All right, but Afghanistan is under Taliban rule, and our goal is we need to go basically free Afghanistan from Taliban rule because the terrorist organization that's linked to Al-Qaeda is running that country. So our best response was to basically go to war with Afghanistan. And it's really not going to war with the country of Afghanistan. We're going to war with their terrorist government organization running the country. All right. 1 month after 9/11, Afghanistan war here. America demanded that Afghanistan and the Taliban hand over Osama bin Laden to the United States. Now, the Taliban, this has come out now. We don't know where Osama bin Laden was. We do not think now he was in Afghanistan, but at the time, our intelligence said that he was in Afghanistan. This guy will hide for 10 years. We will never find this guy until 2011. All right, so he'll jump between Afghanistan, Pakistan, maybe Turkmenistan. He'll go all over the place. All right, so our intel at the time was that he was in Afghanistan. And we basically demanded that the government in Afghanistan hand him over. But since the Taliban was put into place by pretty much Osama bin Laden, they're not going to do that. So after the Taliban refused, America went into Afghanistan. We sent soldiers. Now remember the War Powers Act. We have 6 weeks to pretty much win this war. Otherwise, we have to declare war. And we do that pretty much. We're going to overthrow the Taliban government within weeks, and we're going to establish a democratic government. The actual war itself, and compared to all the other American wars, this was one of the quickest. Bin Laden did escape, so we did not get our major goal of getting Osama bin Laden, but was found 10 years later on 5/1/2001 and was killed by U.S. Special Forces, which we'll talk about when Barack Obama becomes president, because he was the president that was responsible for, and his group was responsible for finding him and killing him. But this is a very quick war. We'll go more into the war tomorrow because your assignment's going to be linked to this a little bit more. But this is kind of just a little bit of a setup. But, we've had so many wars at this point between Vietnam, the Persian Gulf War, the Korean War. They're starting to probably jumble together and get confusing. I promise next week we'll have like a huge review on all of the wars, about the causes, why they happened, and the results of them. All right, but this specific war was rather short, and we were able to win the war without much of a problem. Now, here's the whole issue. And the whole issue is we do not actually leave Afghanistan I think we're still technically there, but we really don't even leave till 2014, 2015. Here's why. we need to set up a democratic government. We need to set up infrastructure. Their government, they have no government. So we need to set up those things. We need to have the elections, and we need to set up schools and hospitals and roads. And you know what? It took us a long time to do. And you know what? The scary thing is there's still terrorist groups in Afghanistan. So our soldiers were constantly being attacked. It would be a bombing once a week, but it'd still be 8 to 10 soldiers that would pass away. All right. And, over time, people are like, why are we still there? Well, here's what happens. If you leave Afghanistan and you say, okay, we won the war, and now you're going to have to build up this government, the terrorist organizations are going to go take it back over. All right. This is a huge reason why, I don't even know if you guys remember, because you guys are probably like in 4th or 5th grade, there was a big group called ISIS, which we'll talk about when Obama becomes president. Groups like that would come in and set up these terrorist organizations in the Middle East, that would be very destructive to their countries and countries around them. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen in Afghanistan. All right. So we keep our soldiers there to make sure the country gets up and running. And it's almost like, is that our job? It becomes very controversial. All right, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Let's just look at these. An initial response of the United States to the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 was to what? Correct answer is 1. Now, tomorrow, when you learn about the Iraqi war, 4 can be a little bit confusing as possibly the answer, but for now, you should know 1. All right, we've realized that Al-Qaeda and the Taliban were the most responsible for this attack, so we're going to go try and find Osama bin Laden and in the process overthrow the Taliban out of Afghanistan. All right, so which event led to the other 3? So basically, which event happened first that led to these other 3 issues? So what was the first thing that happened? All right, chronologically, the best answer is going to be 3. First, September 11, 2001 happens. Okay. Then in response, we're going to create the Department of Homeland Security. Then our Congress is going to pass the PATRIOT Act. And then we're going to go to the Afghanistan war and overthrow the Taliban. All right. Assignment for today. That's not it. Maybe it's here. Okay. The assignment for today is kind of a DBQ, but instead of doing your typical DBQ, we kind of change the questions around. So kind of looks like this. You got a DBQ, okay, with some different types of questions. DBQ with different types of questions. And then we got our political cartoons here. So it's a total of 9 questions. All right. Answer them the best you can. All right. These, I don't know, it's probably not the easiest assignment you've done, but just do the best you can with them and see how you go. This is a great regions practice, basically, because the PATRIOT Act is a big thing that comes up on the regions. So I want you to have your practice with it. All right. That's it. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. We will look at the Iraqi war.